EA Redwood Shores was a great developer. During the PS2 era, they were responsible for some of the best licensed games. They had their hands in Lord of the Rings, Godfather, and the Bond franchises. Each one of their titles was engaging and very fun. Return of the King is a great action game. The Third Age features the entire trilogy in a classic turn-based setting. For Bond, Agent Under Fire was a nice tribute to the Roger Moore era. Everything or Nothing acted as the unofficial fifth Brosnan film, and from Russia with Love they managed to get Sean Connery to come back for Bond one final time. After years of stellar licensed titles, they wanted to try something all their own, a brand new IP. This would be known as Dead Space, a survival horror title that took much of its inspirations from greats like Resident Evil, along with combining beloved sci-fi horror films like Event Horizon and Alien. Dead Space was and is something special, and more than cemented that Redwood Shores could not only respect existing properties, but come up with their own that are really great. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a closer look at Dead Space. Dead Space is one of those rare experiences that feels pretty close to a perfect game. The story and setting are interesting, the survival and gameplay are both engaging, and you can feel and see the creativity in almost every area of the game. This is the type of AAA experience that we always want, but we don't always get. And when a developer can pull this off, it feels extra special. I really like how visually the game takes on this 80s sort of dirty and gritty look to it. It complements the enemies and genre very well. Dead Space effectively grabs the player from the start. The story and situation is set up well. The first level introduces and solidifies the gameplay loop, so that by the end of the first level you know what you're getting into and understand the systems, so that the rest of the game the developers can challenge and surprise you.
Alright, you heard the lady. Take us in, let's see what needs fixing.
Gravity tethers engaged, automatic docking procedures a go.
What the hell?
Sir, the auto dock.
What is it?
We're off track, we're gonna hit the hull.
This usually means that you need to aim for the head to cause the most damage and save on wasting precious ammo. But Dead Space puts an interesting twist on this concept that very much helps to have its own identity from other titles. While you can still aim for the head, it will not have the desired result. What you need to do is go for the limbs. This is where you can cause the most damage. Added on to this, the enemies all act a bit differently, so deciding which limbs to focus on will be part of your strategy. For example, if you have several of the human-like foes coming at you, it might be a good idea to take out each one of their legs to slow them down a bit before they get to you. Others are more hulky enemies, whereas some can launch themselves at you. The shooting itself is very satisfying from both the sound and impact effects. Each one of the weapons have a distinct set of sounds to them that are both familiar with a foreign element to them. Impact-wise, almost anything can be blown off, and this properly conveys how each one of your instruments is a deadly weapon. Along with this, your arsenal is solid as well. The plasma cutter is your first weapon and is easily one of the best and probably the most iconic. This is essentially a pistol, and the alternative fire allows you to switch between more horizontal or vertical shots. This was my go-to weapon my first time through, and I exclusively used it and has earned its place as one of gaming's best weapons. You also have access to other weapons like a line gun that can fire mines, an assault rifle that can hit everyone in a circle, a flamethrower, and a few others. You can carry up to 4 at once and switch to them on the fly. What you end up using will all come down to player choice. None of the weapons are forced upon the player, but rather provided as different options to fit the desired approach to combat. For example, the flamethrower might be a better choice for some of the smaller enemies. Now you have other tools outside of your weapons too. For one, you have stasis. This sends out an energy blast that will slow down an enemy for a period of time. Many of the combat encounters will have you up against several enemies, and this can allow you to thin the herd and not get overwhelmed, or get to a better position to better handle the situation. Kinesis is another tool that allows you to pick up items in the environment. This is used for the puzzles and grabbing hard to reach items, but this can also be useful for combat. My favorite is grabbing an explosive container or something else like it and sending it back at an enemy as it saves on ammo. Dead Space is really well done with its action. It has this constant sense of dread and does a good job of building up to explosive moments, and then coming back down to give the player a breather before it starts to build again. The game is separated into levels, and each are a very focused experience, but there are plenty of side rooms to explore. These will usually net you with useful credits, upgrade materials, ammo, and more. Progression is very rewarding and provides a lot of player choice. Credits can be used at the store, and it's here where you have a lot of choices from buying upgrade nodes, new weapons, ammo, or even health kits. The game may provide you with new weapons, but you can opt to ignore them for something else. The same goes for the suit upgrades. Maybe it is worth getting the extra armor and inventory space now, or maybe you want to focus on upgrading your weapon first. This means that players have a lot of room in how they want to upgrade their character. When at the workbenches, you can use found or bought nodes to increase the stats of your weapon. The end result of the upgrades will be the same, but the choice on what you unlock first comes down to you. The rooms are full of items to grab, which makes exploration rewarding, and most enemies drop something for you to pick up as well. This area of the game is very addictive since progression is steady and constant. At certain points, you will be outside the ship or in a zero-G environment, and these situations very much stand out. It can literally flip the combat on its head as you need to consider enemies coming at you from all sides, as you might be fighting on a wall or ceiling. There's some other details I really appreciate about the experience and design. For one, the player is almost always in control. Even during parts that are more like cutscenes, you can still control the camera. The same goes for the use of the HUD and that it's placed on the player's back rather than in a traditional format. This allows your eyes to be drawn more into the game than the meters and menus that are in it. Both of these things helps Dead Space to be very immersive. Bosses are also featured and are generally pretty good. The Regenerator definitely takes cues from Resident Evil's Nemesis when it's used, since you cannot kill it in many of the situations. Some are more hulking enemies where you need to find a way to get to their back to hurt them. The final boss delivers a very good traditional fight with the appropriate amount of spectacle. Story-wise, Dead Space succeeds with a well-executed simple story. This is a universe that you want to know more about, but you only get to see a slice of it, and all of this factors into the horror and mystery. Isaac is a silent protagonist, but oddly enough, he is someone we are rooting for the entire game. He is not a soldier, but rather an engineer sent to help out this ship that's gone dark. This makes him an underdog, and as a result, the player too, as you control him trying to escape. I also like how much of the game is about you trying to put out fires to keep the ship afloat. Once you get the engines working again, something else goes wrong on the ship, and you need to find a proper way to fix it. Audio logs are used well to not only sell each of the levels, but to help inform the player of what happened before they got there, along with moments of humanity from the ill-fated crew. Many of these audio logs help to bring personality to the ship and add weight to the situation you're in. This is not a game with in-depth character development, but rather one that is simple and well executed. When it comes to flaws, I only have a few. For one, there isn't a way to skip some of the more narrative-heavy parts when going back through the game again. The two turret sections are easily the two worst parts of the game. Overall, they are two average situations, and my main issue is how clunky the aiming is with the turret, and this is honestly something that could have been refined in a patch. Dead Space is a rare game that is both very awesome and very polished. Dead Space was a stellar title when it first came out, and years later it still manages to feel just as refreshing when it first released. This does not feel dated in any way. From the opening moments to the conclusion, this is a memorable thrill ride that feels handcrafted to provide the highest quality of entertainment to the player. For a set of developers that never really dipped their toe in this genre, it shows that they very much understood it and could deliver on it. The gameplay loop of defeating enemies, finding supplies, upgrading, and surviving is both thrilling and scary at times, along with being addictive. Dead Space is easily one of my favorite survival horror titles, and I highly recommend it. Have you played the original Dead Space, and what are your opinions on it? Let me know in the comments below. If you're interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell. And if you would like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All of the links will be at the end of this video and within the description. And thank you very much for watching.